This is All India Radio Mangalore. Dear listeners, in today's Talk in English program now, Dr. Charles V. Furtado, Associate Professor of English, Director Administration, St. Aloysius College, Mangalore, will speak on the topic Empathy, the Panacea for the Ills of Contemporary World.
Before I started to prepare the script for my talk, I reminded myself of the dictum, walk your talk. I wanted to put myself in the shoes of my listeners and ask myself how I could make my talk meaningful to all of them. Thinking aloud, I found that I always had loved stories as a child, and that made me infuse 2 stories into my talk. I'd like to begin by quoting one of my all-time favorites, the well-known American disabled rights advocate, author, and activist Helen Keller, who is once known to have said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." Recently, I heard somebody say that we are living in a world where we have to run to stay in the same place. What is shocking is that these days, such statements neither perturb nor appall us. In some ways, all the hyperboles of yesterday have become the understatements of today. This only goes to reiterate the often quoted cliche, I quote, "The only thing that is constant is change." Living in a world that is becoming smaller by the day, shrunk beyond comprehension by the tsunami of globalization and all that it stands for, people and their interpersonal relationships have been reduced to a mere going through the motions, designed to keep society in a perpetual state of stoicism. And a stoic will never respond to his fellow beings. He will closet himself in his ivory tower and distance himself from life itself. It is therefore imperative that we introspect and come to the realization that the world is in need of healthy relationships like never before, and that the only way to achieve it is through empathy. Empathy has been defined as the ability to identify and understand another's situation, feelings, and motives. In other words, it is our capacity to recognize the concerns other people have. As Mother Teresa puts it very succinctly, I quote, "It's not about how much you do, but how much love you put into what you do that counts." Unquote. Empathy is valued currency. It allows us to build bonds of trust. It gives us insights into what others may be feeling or thinking. It helps us to understand how or why others react to situations. It sharpens our people acumen and informs our decisions. While some people are born empathetic, all have the inherent potential to develop this capacity. Here are a few practical tips to develop empathy. The first, and perhaps most crucial, is to develop active listening. The world needs people who can and are willing to truly listen to others. People who listen with their ears, eyes, and heart. Who pay attention to the other's body language, to their tone, to the hidden emotions behind what they are trying to say, and, very importantly, to the context. Most importantly, people who can listen to what others can't say, what they will never be able to say. The second important prerequisite to develop empathy is to be fully present when one is with people, to use names whenever possible, and be willing to greet others with a smile. The world is starved of encouragement, and even a simple gesture like an attentive nod can boost people's confidence. John Wesley hit the nail on its head when he said, I quote, Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, as long as ever you can. It is good to ensure that one gives others genuine recognition and praise whenever an opportunity presents itself, taking care to be specific and without undue exaggeration. Yes, a sincere pat on the back, a well-meaning positive stroke goes a long way in enhancing self-esteem and can prove to be infectious. The third must-do to develop empathy is to take a personal interest in people, to go out of our way to show people that we care, to appreciate their achievements, and celebrate our differences. Empathy will lead us to acceptance, to the knowledge that all our brethren, notwithstanding their color, caste, creed, language, and nationality, are just like us, though not necessarily exactly like us. Acceptance leads us to accompany others, to walk shoulder to shoulder with all our brothers and sisters, to grow together in the healthy ambience of live and let live. There is absolutely no doubt that the need of the hour for all the citizens of our great nation, especially the youth, is to develop empathy. To drive this home, I would like to narrate a story which made a big impact on me when I read it somewhere recently. I believe a farmer had some puppies that he needed to sell. He painted a sign advertising the 4 pups and set about nailing it to a post on the edge of his yard. As he was driving the last nail into the post, he felt a tug on his overalls. He looked down into the eyes of a little boy. "Mister," he said, "I want to buy one of your puppies." "Well," said the farmer, as he rubbed the sweat off the back of his neck, "these puppies come from fine parents and cost a good deal of money." The little boy dropped his head for a moment. Then, reaching deep into his pocket, he pulled out a handful of change and held it up to the farmer. "I've got 39 cents. Is that enough to take a look?" "Sure," said the farmer, and with that he let out a whistle. "Here, Dolly," he called. Out from the doghouse and down the ramp ran Dolly, followed by 4 little balls of fur. The little boy pressed his face against the chain-link fence. His eyes danced with delight as the dogs made their way to the fence. The little boy noticed something else stirring inside the doghouse. Slowly, another little ball appeared. This one noticeably smaller. Down the ramp it slid. Then, in a somewhat awkward manner, the little pup began hobbling toward the others, doing its best to catch up. "I want that one," the little boy said, pointing to the little runt. The farmer knelt down at the boy's side and said, "Son, you don't want that puppy. He will never be able to run and play with you like these other dogs would." With that, the little boy stepped back from the fence, reached down, and began rolling up one leg of his trousers. In doing so, he revealed a steel brace running down both sides of his leg, attaching itself to a specially made shoe. Looking back up at the farmer, he said, "You see, sir, I don't run too well myself, and he will need someone who understands." With tears in his eyes, the farmer reached down and picked up the little pup. Holding it carefully, he handed it to the little boy. "How much?" asked the little boy. "No charge," answered the farmer. "There's no charge for love." An empathetic response will help to rebuild the rapidly deteriorating interpersonal relationships of the present world. While psychologists point out that empathy is right brain activity, I have also heard that the right part of the brain controls the left part of our body, the seat of the heart. Thus, in my perspective, empathy is the lubricant that keeps relationships running smoothly. It is the elixir that helps us to practice what we preach, an essential ingredient that will help transform our contemporary world into a better place, a legacy we will be proud to bequeath our successors. The world we are living in is so full of challenges, which largely look insurmountable, that it is but natural to become pessimistic and disillusioned, wondering how much of a difference one can really make. Whenever I find myself overwhelmed by such dark clouds, I remind myself of the need to focus on their silver linings by recalling a motivational story which had a great impact on me. One day, a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy hurriedly picking up and gently throwing things into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "Young man, what are you doing?" The boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they are likely to die." The man laughed to himself and said, "Don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make any difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it into the surf. Then, smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference to that one." Yes, dear listeners, it is crucial that all of us learn how to empathize with our neighbors, hone our skills in listening, start celebrating our differences, and be willing to look at the world we are living in through the eyes of others. Only when we are able to put ourselves in the shoes of others will we be able to understand the challenges they face and be able to accompany them in their journey. Then, only then, will there be a true sahodaya, a genuine growing together, a we feeling that will enable a world of love, goodwill, and harmony. I'd like to conclude my talk by reading a poem on empathy by Morgan Harper Nichols, the well-known contemporary American writer, artist, and designer. I quote, "Let me hold the door for you. I may have never walked in your shoes, but I can see your soles are worn. Your strength is torn under the weight of a story I have never lived before. Let me hold the door for you. After all you have walked through, it is the least I can do." Thank you, dear listeners. I wish that all of us would understand the one mantra to live together, to move forward together, and to grow together. Thank you.
Dear listeners, you have just heard Dr. Charles V. Furtado speaking on the topic Empathy, the Panacea for the Ills of Contemporary World. This broadcast came to you from the studios of All India Radio Mangalore.